everyone, it's Esabelle and welcome back to this channel. So I normally do not do any kind of videos about current events or social media events, but I did hear about this particular happening.
The internet, Mr. Monk. News like this travels fast.
Oh, the internet, people.
Because it correlates really well with psychological principles and social psychology ideas, I decided to go ahead and talk about it. So recently, YouTuber MrBeast has come under scrutiny because of a clip that was shared around the internet that outlines his dating standards in reference to his new girlfriend.
If you have these traits, we get along really well.
Yeah.
And if you don't, like, it's impossible for us to hang out.
Yeah.
Now, there are other controversial aspects, or at least what people are deeming controversial about his dating standards, but one of the biggest controversies is just that he has dating standards and that men should not have dating standards. Even though there are other aspects to this debate, to all this firestorm that is going on online, I am just going to be commenting on the idea of, is it okay to have dating standards? And what do healthy dating standards look like? Because that is the part that actually coincides well with psychology. Now, because I know that all of you watching are extremely smart, some of this stuff is going to also be just common sense, but some of it is going to be stuff that may surprise you about dating, about social psychology, about relationships. So hold tight, everyone. Let's go. Let's start at the beginning, which is, what are standards? We have standards even for just friendships, even just for how we want to be treated by family members. So these do exist outside of dating, but what are they fundamentally? Fundamentally, standards are a proclamation of values. It is saying,
hey, this is what I value in this particular relationship.
it is self-respecting to have standards. It is self-respecting to say,
This is what I will and will not allow.
it shows that he has values that he is willing to stand by. And that is a good thing. People who have dating standards also typically have standards for their lifestyle, for moral behavior. Having standards and sticking by them is an act of courage. And as I said before, updates available, guys. As I said before, self-respect, self-love. And it is a way to show that they value their time and their resources, which is a good thing. Because how many times have you been around someone who does not care if they waste their time and someone else's time just because they're not prioritizing what means a lot to them, and therefore they're just kind of wasting their lives away on stuff that they do not value. Now, I do want to put a little stipulation on this. It is good to have standards, but this is not an excuse to have extremely high perfectionistic standards. What I typically like to go by in my dating practices is what's called the 80% rule, which is a rule that Dr. Phil mentions in his book, Love Smart. The 80% rule states that you want to find someone who is 80% of what you're looking for. And then the other 20%, as long as that 20% does not contain actual deal breakers, like obviously, if someone's a serial killer, yeah, they can be perfect in every other way, but if they're out there doing murders, they're gone.
They're here to do murders.
So no deal breakers in the 20%. However, just going by the 80% rule, if the 20% is pretty negligible or just preferences or not really going to be all that relevant to your actual lifestyle, like say they have a belief that is a little bit odd, not bad, but odd, and it never really comes up in your everyday life, it's probably not going to impact the relationship much. That can fall in the 20%. That is negligible, because you're not going to find someone who is 100% of what you're looking for. This is where you also want to make sure that you prioritize what is on your list. You can have a full list of everything that you would want, preferences, and obviously things that would be deal breakers if they're not on that list, but then you have to sift through which of my standards are deal breakers if I do not have them, and which are just preferences that you would like but are not going to break the relationship if they do not check that box. It is important to be realistic. Another reason why this is so important that I already kind of touched on is that it gives you focus in your choice of dates. You remember what I said about wasting time? Yeah, this is where it comes in, guys. You will waste your time with someone who does not know what they're looking for. And I'm actually going to touch upon this a little later near the end of the video, so hold that thought. But before I get to that point, it also shows that he has direction. And if he has direction in his dating life, if he has purpose, if he has things that he is aiming for, he has goals, he has foresight. It takes a lot of foresight to have standards and say, what is it that I really want? Now, are you going to get all of them correct? No, you have to be willing to be flexible, because sometimes you'll run into something that you didn't think was going to be a deal breaker and turns out it is. Or there was something that you thought would be a deal breaker and turns out it's not that big of a deal. Sometimes that happens and you do have to keep an open mind, but to have at least a tentative idea of what it is that you are and are not looking for, it's very important. It does indicate direction in other parts of his life. It is a very good indicator that you have a very conscientious man. This does go both ways, although to be fair, there's a lot more people online who are willing to support women having standards than supporting men. That is a double standard.
Stop it. Get some help.
That's a topic for another time. Right now, let's get back on track. Now, this next point is no guarantee that they have already done this. Does not mean that they have looked at having standards in this way, but it at least helps orient them whenever they wake up to it. And if this is news to you, consider this a sign to get back on track yourself with your own standards. Standards help you focus on what you need to be for the ideal partner. Because if you want to snag this wonderful dream partner out there, if you're like,
okay, this is my ideal boyfriend or ideal girlfriend, this is who I need to be, what kind of person would this dream person want?
So then it allows you to then focus on who it is you need to be, ways that you need to grow, you need to improve. And that is extremely healthy because it means that you will be prepared whenever you do find this dream person. Today is also the day that we are announcing the giveaway winners. Drum roll, please. Congratulations! I will be contacting you very shortly so that we can get those prizes straight to you. This fifth and final point, it is good for women that men have dating standards. Yes, that might be controversial, but let me explain. Whenever they do not know what they're looking for and they do not have a preset idea of standards, then typically what they tend to do is fall back on their emotions, whether or not a woman is any good for them, whether or not a relationship is any good for them. Now, I am definitely not undercutting the value of romantic feelings. It is very important to have romantic feelings, be physically and emotionally attracted. That is a crucial part of a romantic relationship. However, even in very healthy romantic relationships, it is going to ebb and flow. Those sparking, passionate, fiery feelings of butterflies in your stomach, those are going to go up and down depending on circumstances, depending on your energy, depending on how long you've been in their relationship. And some people are just chasing what's called limerence. And chasing limerence is a very, very dangerous thing to do because then you're going to get people going in and out of relationships whenever the new has worn off of it. Really a misguided idea of what a relationship is for. Needless to say, this is an extremely unstable foundation. If feelings, and especially limerence feelings alone, are trusted to be what keeps the relationship afloat. Just to put it into perspective, the Society of Human Resources Management has found that the average person has more than 400 emotional experiences every day. Over 400 emotional experiences. That is a lot of emotional fluctuation. Do you really want a relationship that is built upon that? It is going to be a roller coaster, and not a very exciting one, just a scary one. You are going to be always on your toes, walking on eggshells, and wondering if you are pleasing them, because the minute that they are displeased or unhappy, or it's dwindling, it's boring, they're going to be like,
I'm not sure about this.
Not a good foundation. Now, if someone goes on feelings, it could turn out like the scenario that I've mainly been referencing, where someone is like ready to get out of a relationship as soon as the feelings don't feel like how they should feel in a given moment. And so they're very flighty, very fickle, non-committal, not the kind of person you want to be around. However, you also may find it going the other way, where they go off feelings, and if they have like a lot of anxiety and abandonment issues, then they're more likely to be like,
well, because I also feel anxious and I just don't want them to leave.
They may actually value the relationship not for what it actually gives both of you, what is actually healthy for both of you, but they may value the relationship because they just don't want to lose that closeness, even if it's a toxic relationship. Like, people like this are more likely to stay in toxic relationships because they're like,
well, we just don't want to lose the connection. We don't want to lose this person. I'm afraid of being alone. I'm afraid of being abandoned.
And so you're going to find men who stay in a relationship that may or may not be healthy. They may not even tell you that there are problems. They may not communicate well because they are listening to fear of abandonment and fear of losing you, even though there are some very unhealthy things happening under the surface. Neither of these, either being flighty and fickle and leaving a relationship as soon as it doesn't feel right, or staying with it out of fear, neither of these are things that you want. Values help take you away from the possibility that they are just here for an emotional reason one way or the other. They will appreciate you more in their lives in a healthy way if you are actually checking boxes on things that they value. This is going to rise above any transient ebb and flow feelings that may be taking place. Now, you might have questions about relationships and understanding healthy relationships. What standards should you have? What helps a marriage? What helps a dating relationship? How would you make these standards? Well, if you do have those questions, I did do a mini-series with author O'Neill Walters talking all about relationships, healthy relationships, toxic relationships, standards in relationships, even personality disorders in relationships. I will link the first video in this mini-series right here so you can get started watching that, because I want you guys to all have nothing less than a happy, healthy relationship. Hugs!